What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles in the Open Great League with a triple foul play team with Shadow Electrode, Shadow Malamar, and Grimmsnarl. Now I have to say, Electrode was out here core breaking pretty much every team I was facing. So many teams just don't respect the electric typing, and then there are also a lot of ghost types out there right now, so Electrode put in so much work during these battles. I'm also running Hyper Beam on the Shadow Malamar in that safe swap position, mostly because I don't have any charge TMs, but also it gives it play into something like an Azumarill, which would normally expect to completely wall Malamar's energy. Grimmsnarl still feels a little bit underwhelming, but it is still certainly better than last season. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. Which Pokemon do you think benefits the most from the foul play buff this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Let's go into the first battle, leading Shadow Electrode into Empoleon. So this is a great matchup, and the fact the opponent is choosing to stay in here probably implies they're double weak to Electrode. So I'm actually going to shield the Hydro Cannon. I could tank that and go for a full farm down, but they're going to swap into Altaria. I bank back-to-back discharges, or foul plays as well, and then I swap into my Grimmsnarl. Now we're going to go for a foul play here. We don't tank that Sky Attack that comfortably. Foul play is going to grab a shield, and the opponent, if they want to, they could possibly double shield and Dragon Breath farm me down. It doesn't really matter too much because Electrode does have so much energy. They actually swap back into Empoleon. However, the Volt Switch damage put them into foul play range. We get the KO, and let's see what they want to do. They're going to come in with a Azumarill, and that's amazing for Electrode. We are already at 100 energy, or pretty much. We go for the first discharge, we grab the final shield, and we're already at another back-to-back discharges here. So second one, gonna do big damage, and we can fire off a third one straight away. Of course, discharge will get the KO there, and just two more Volt Switches, and we get to yet another discharge. So spammy, Shadow Electrode gets the KO up against the Altaria, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's top on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Scissor in the lead. So, this is still a great matchup for us. Of course, resisting the Bullet Punch damage. They will outpace me here. I can tank a Night Slash. However, I'm going to shield this anyways, just because typically Shadow Scissor is going to be paired with one or maybe even two Water-type Pokemon in the backline. So, we go for Discharge. I'm now going to swap into Malamar, looking to bait out potentially something like an Azumarill, which actually isn't that bad for me. The opponent is actually going to choose to stay in, but they come in with Greninja. Of course, I don't have access to superpower, but the opponent still has a shield, so they are definitely going to respect the damage anyways, and they do of course shield there. But the opponent goes for Night Slash. Night Slash gets the KO. I have a discharge already loaded, and discharge from Shadow Electrode, whilst yes, it's not the best charge move, this should be enough damage to take out Greninja. Their final Pokemon gonna be a Jellicent, and we could have had another sweep for the Electrode, but you know what, Grimmsnarl is on the team. Let's see it do something. We go for foul play. Foul play gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. I see Shadow Dusknoir in the lead. So, this is a little bit awkward just because I do have two probably slightly better answers in my Malamar, and especially the Grimmsnarl, but I'm going to stay in anyways. They end up throwing on poor timing, so that's going to allow me to reach back-to-back foul plays here. If I want to throw the second one, I will now throw on bad timing as well. However, I don't really mind that. Foul play number 2 is going to be shielded, and the opponent does not commit to a full farm down. That's absolutely fine with me. They fire off the Shadow Punch. I put them into range, but I can sideway farm them down. I feel like Malamar's coverage is going to be slightly better for me, and here we go. We've got an Azumarill, but it does not matter as we've got access to Hyper Beam. Hyper Beam does insane damage to the Azu. It puts them into range where I can shield once and commit to a full sideway farm down. The opponent is going to try and get to another charge move, but they don't get there in time. They're going to come in with a Charizard, and you know what? We've already landed one Hyper Beam. Let's go for a second. Hyper Beam gets the one shot. We sideway farm down the Dusknoir, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see a Shadow Fortress in the lead, and since they're on Volt Switch, and this is another positive matchup for the Shadow Electrode. Going to go straight for a Discharge here. Discharge is going to be shielded by the opponent, and they're going to go straight for a charge move of their own. They go for a Sand Tune there, but it is, whilst it is super effective, going to debuff my defense. It doesn't really deal that much damage. So here, I try to catch the next one. Doesn't work out as the opponent swaps out into Ludicolo, but they go for a Weather Ball. I'm now going to go for a foul play here, and Foul Play is going to deal some decent damage. Foul Play gets them low, and we are actually able to go for a full sideway farm down, and now the opponent comes in with a Mana Buzz. Of course, we've only got Foul Play here. We're not going to reach a Hyper Beam. It doesn't really do too much damage, but it doesn't really matter at this point. I'm going to fire the Discharge. Discharge is going to be shielded. We now swap into Grimmsnarl, and I don't have access to Play Rough, so there's not really any point in shielding here. I can tank a Rock Tomb, and whilst my Electrode is fairly low in HP, it really doesn't matter. They've got Air Slash as a fast move. That is resisted damage, so the opponent is going to have to, of course, sponge the damage here. We go for back-to-back power punches. Pretty irrelevant, really, because it's going to be the Shadow Electrode once again coming in the end game, going straight for the Discharge. And of course, Discharge, super effective. It takes out the Mana Buzz, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there into the next battle. We can see Jellicent in the lead, so the good leads continue. But again, another slightly awkward matchup because I do have, well, a slightly better answer in Grimmsnarl in the back where we're going to resist the fast move damage as well. And of course, they can't go for a Shadow Ball up against the Grimmsnarl. But either way, we're going to go for a Foul Play here. I go for Foul Play. It doesn't really make a difference. They both cost the same energy. And actually, they do very similar damage. I believe Foul Play does 65 damage. And then with Stab bonus of 20% damage, which is same type attack bonus, Discharge does 66 damage, so you could argue that you could actually run Hyper Beam on the Electrode as well. I don't have any charged TMs, but that would have been pretty interesting to try out. But anyways, they're going to come in with a Ludicolo. We've seen this matchup already. We can tank a Weather Ball, but I think I end up throwing on Alignment up against the Ludicolo here, and as a result, they actually farm me down there. So that is not ideal for me, but I didn't want to throw some energy and then give an energy advantage into their final Pokemon, but it's a Wigglytuff anyways. We're going to lose that game. So I do just concede the match. But GG to opponent there, and once again, another great lead for us. They are going to swap into their Shadow Kanto Marowak, and of course, I had to go for one Volt Switch there before swapping out, so they do land a Mud Slap, and as well, they are going to be ahead on energy, but that's fine with me. We can come in with the Malamar, go for a Foul Play. Foul Play is going to be shielded, and we can reach a second Foul Play. Foul Play number 2, going to grab the final shield, and they will commit to a farm down, but Electrode has a Foul Play already loaded. We win CMP, so this energy going to waste. Foul Play gets the KO. They come back in with the Shadow Scizor. And I'm expecting some sort of Water-type Pokemon in the back, so I am going to overfarm. They will reach another Night Slash, I believe, so I do fire off the charge move. Discharge gets the KO. It's not a Water-type Pokemon, but it's a Dusknoir, so it's the same result here. We can go for Foul Play. Foul Play does big damage. We snipe with a single Sucker Punch from the Grimmsnarl, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent there into the next battle, and oh my god, Electrode winning another lead matchup here. The opponent going to stay in, and once again, if they're staying in, they must be double weak to the Electrode. So I'm going to shield once, I'm going to go for a full farm down. The opponent actually not allowing a full farm down, instead swapping into Credilli, but that's fine with me. I go for one Foul Play. I'm now going to swap into Malamar, as this will put them into range where a single Foul Play will KO. Of course, I don't have access to Superpower, so that is why I did throw a charge move first before swapping out. But now I'm going to go for the Foul Play here. Of course, I am debuffed, but they're going to use a shield. At this point, I'm happy to let the Malamar go down. Rock Tomb gets the KO. I'm going to come in with my Grimmsnarl, and I will look to try and throw a Power Punch on the CMP tie. The opponent is going to look to swap out, make a very nice catch there, catching onto the Shadow Talonflame, but I go for a full undercharge. We get the full farm down before an Incinerate damage registers, and let's see what they want to do. The opponent is waiting out Switch Clock. They come in with Empoleon, so they were once again double weak to Electrode, but that's fine. I'm now boosted. Foul Play does big damage. Unfortunately, they do get to the charge move, but you know what? We might as well shield here. Guarantee we take out the Empoleon. They're also forced to throw energy, and as a result, 2 more Sucker Punches from Grimmsnarl, gets the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle, and big surprise, another lead win for the Shadow Electrode here. Honestly, like, this thing felt unstoppable, but we are going to see a safe swap into Clefable. I know you're expecting a Meteor Mash, but surprisingly, they are on Swift, so maybe on Swift and Meteor Mash, or potentially just not even running Meteor Mash at all. Either way, I'm going to swap into Malamar here, as this is just going to be another Swift. That is resisted damage, and they do reach yet another Swift, unfortunately, so I think I've somehow missed a fast move from the potential Fable there. But either way, I can't quite get a full farm down. Forced to throw a foul play. Foul play, gonna get the KO. They're gonna come in with the Shadow Celio, and unfortunately not on superpower here. Would have loved to full send it, but they end up shielding anyways. So I'm not gonna allow a full farm down. Instead, I swap into my Grimmsnarl, but I don't really know why I did that because, well, this foul play might KO, but they actually swap. They make a very nice catch there, catching onto a Shadow Kanto Marowak. Now here, I make a pretty significant mistake. I think from that range, I could have just gone for a power-up punch here, but I go and full send the foul play, guaranteeing the KO, but that means I don't get to the next charge move. And at the time, I was thinking, you know what, we've got to move on the Electrode anyways, it doesn't really matter. But no, I did not bank a charge move before swapping out. And as a result, even though we were pretty good into the Shadow Celio, we end up getting swept by it. So GG's to that trainer there, very well played. But into the next battle, we're going to see Shadow Electrode into a Corviknight. So again, another great lead matchup for me. The opponent is going to be say swapping into a Kanto Marowak. So once again, because we're on Volt Switch, it does take us a while to swap out of that lead matchup there, meaning we're always going to be quite far behind on energy, meaning if they are really desperate to, they probably could flip this matchup. However, I'm happy to just maintain alignment here. I'm going to fight for switch advantage. They fire off the Bone Club. I'm now going to look to overfarm, and we can go for a foul play. Foul play is going to be shielded, and we can reach another foul play here. Looks like the opponent actually would have outpaced me there, but they're trying to preserve the HP on the Marowak. They swap back into Corviknight, but they don't even farm to a payback. They go for an air cutter. That's resisted damage. It might get the boost, but it doesn't matter. We've got a ton of energy. They're actually going to come in with a Dust Clubs, and that's fine with me. We've got back-to-back foul plays already. First one does about 50% of their HP. The second one will guarantee the KO here. And now we swap into Grimmsnarl. I wasn't looking to catch a charge move there. I just realized they can farm me down, so I might as well not give up any extra energy. And we're able to go for a Sucker Punch farm down, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. Oh my god, I always feel like I'm on the receiving end of a ton of bad leads with what I run, because usually I'm running pretty nonsense Pokemon. This is actually a pretty usable team. You'd probably substitute out the Grimmsnarl for something slightly easier to use, like maybe a Shadow Sableye or potentially a Spiritomb, and you've got honestly a really strong team. But anyways, at the moment, they've swapped into a Guzzlord. This should be a great matchup for me, but they've got access to Sludge Bomb, and we don't have access to Play Rough. So here, because we've gone for a double boost with the power punches, we can commit to a resisted Sucker Punch farm down. They can go for a Brutal Swing, but that is going to be resist damage there. They're now going to come back in with the Tentacruel, and I'm expecting some sort of ABB style team. So I'm actually going to swap out into Malamar, and here it is. They've got a Hydreigon, so a very cool team here. Hydreigon and Guzzlord in the back line. They might have access to Fly, which is going to do slightly more damage than the Brutal Swing. They do go for the Fly. Fly puts me into Dragon Breath farm down range, but we can come in with the Grimmsnarl, and I'm just barely able to reach a power-up punch here. Power-up punch is super effective. Of course, it's non-stab. It's not a hard-hitting move, but I needed that damage. The opponent also going into a CMP tie there. We will outpace. The opponent makes a very nice catch, so all I have to do here is go for an undercharge. We undercharge. We get the full farm down. We come out with a second discharge loaded, and of course, it's resisted damage, but it doesn't matter from this range. Discharge takes out Hydreigon, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's opponent there into the next battle. Finally, a bad lead for the Shadow Electrode. Surely it had to happen at some point. So here, we're going to say swap into the Malamar. And unfortunately, once again, we don't have access to Superpower. I feel like it's quite likely that they will end up shooting a charge move anyway, so I'm not going to full send the Hyper Beam. Instead, just going to go for back-to-back foul plays. First one is shielded, and we reach a second foul play. That's huge for me. Foul play going to be double shielded because of the threat of a potential Superpower. At this point, we come back in with the Electrode. I have to let one of these moves go through, but they will be reaching back-to-back Weather Balls. Second one is going to be caught onto Quagsire. Very nice play there from the opponent. We go for Discharge. Of course, that is resisted damage, but it doesn't really make a huge difference, as I would still need to go for a foul play to take out the Quagsire anyways. I'm going to look to overfarm here. I'm going to throw, I believe, on the CMP tie with the next charge move. Foul play takes out that Quagsire, and they come back in with the Ninetales. I'm going to look to overfarm as much as as I can here whilst not taking too much damage. I'm going to go for a Power Punch as I believe this should get the KO from this range. Power Punch does KO, but actually I didn't overfarm and I can reach a Foul Play, but even though I'm boosted, Foul Play is not enough damage to take out the Celio. I make a catch there, but they put me into range where they could just settle for the Body Slam, meaning they can reach a second Body Slam. And unfortunately, we will be taken out by another Celio, and we do end up losing that game. But GG's up on there into the next battle, and back to good leads as we see a 2-cannon in the lead. They say swap into Spidops. I don't have a direct answer, so I'm going to go straight for a discharge here. We're going to wait for the opponent to throw some energy, and then I will eventually swap out of this matchup. Now, I'm actually going to no-shield this. They go for a Rock Tomb, which does slightly more damage than the Lunge. I didn't need to shield that because that 2-cannon doesn't have that much fast move pressure into the Electrode anyways. They fire off a Lunge. That's fine with me. I'm going to look to throw here, and the opponent does make a very nice catch there, catching the Foul Play back onto 2-cannon. That's fine with me. We can now look to overfarm just slightly and fire off a second Foul Play. Foul Play, gonna get the KO there. They're gonna come back in with the Spidops, and now I'm just gonna no-shield this. Lunge doesn't KO, so I'm gonna swap out. Well, I tried to swap out into my Malamar. Doesn't work out. They've got a Shadow Donphan in the back, which is cool to see, but this should be fine with me. We can go straight for the Foul Play, and all I need to do is put them into range where a non-stab Foul Play from my Shadow Electrode can get the KO. So we're just going to stay in this matchup here. If I try and swap out and make a catch there or something, that's not going to work out for me. Instead, I just stay in, force them to throw some energy. They had to throw there as we did get to another Foul Play. But as a result, we've got the Foul Play on the Electrode. Foul Play takes out the Shadow Donphan, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. We're going to see Steelix in the lead. Now, this is actually not that bad of a matchup for me. Of course, we have been winning a lot of lead matchups. Honestly, you're going to see like 2 Foul Plays pretty much puts them into Volt Switch farm down range. As you can see now, we have already got them into the L health range here as we fire off a second Foul Play. Foul Play, gonna be no-shielded. And I will just respect the damage here from a potential Earthquake. They go for a Psychic Fangs bait there. It doesn't really matter too much. They're now going to swap into Sableye, and Sableye can have access to Dazzling Gleam. So I'm definitely going to shield this, and they are running it. They full send it as well. Now, we're going to look to overfarm, fire off a Foul Play. Power Up Punch, definitely not going to cut it in this matchup. So Foul Play gets the guaranteed KO there. And let's see, they come in with a Mandibuzz. Now, I don't expect them to have Aerial Ace anymore. Foul Play and Shadow Ball seems to be the recommended moveset this season. They come back in with the Steelix, but this is just going to be a resisted charge move. It's a Psychic Fangs, which doesn't do much damage. I'm now going to come in with the Shadow Malamar, and once again, whilst we don't have access to Superpower, the opponent doesn't know that yet, so they're going to go for a Foul Play, and we are now going to look to overfarm. We can go for a Foul Play of our own, probably going to grab a shield anyways, as the threat of a Superpower is quite dangerous. They're now going to fire off the next charge move. The opponent goes for Foul Play, which we barely hang on to, and we can reach another Foul Play of our own. Foul Play, gonna get the KO there. Of course, Electrode does have some residual energy. However, I'm going to come in with the Grimmsnarl here, basically force him to throw several charge moves to take me out. Again, we don't have access to play rough here, but we're going to boost up our attack stat. The opponent goes for Shadow Ball, which does hit harder than the Foul Play, but they still can't farm me down. We get to the Foul Play. Foul Play, resist damage, but it gets the KO anyways, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. Now, if you want to take your support to the next level, you can become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments of every video. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has become a channel member already. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.